What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and I'm going to be doing a Skull Servant deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is a really awesome deck that can make some absolutely massive monsters like your King of the Skull Servant that just gets absolutely huge and OTKs the opponent. And this deck is super fun to be able to play because you're actually playing one of the oldest Yu-Gi-Oh cards ever created, the Skull Servant, which was actually released in the very first set ever, The Legend of the Blue Eyes. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like your name description in a single video, getting us signed cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron, along with test stands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Skull Servant, which is a very important combo piece for the deck, because you're going to be using this card with your copy of White Prince to be able to get that card in the graveyard to boost up your copies of your King of the Skull Servants. We're then playing 3 copies of King of the Skull Servant. King of the Skull Servant is an important card in the deck because it's actually our boss monster, and this card can get absolutely huge in the deck to help you OTK the opponent, because this card's original attack of this card is the combined number of King of the Skull Servants and Skull Servants in your graveyard times 1,000. So this card can get absolutely huge, and it's just a really cool card. And when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, which is actually never going to happen, you can banish one other King of the Skull Servant or a Skull Servant from your graveyard and special summon this card. You're usually not going to get this card destroyed by battle because it's going to come out absolutely huge, but it basically is just a level 1 normal summon that just by sending a copy of White Prince to the graveyard is going to come out as a 3,000 attack point normal summon, which is absolutely insane. I'm then playing 3 copies of White Prince. White Prince is really good to help you set up the graveyard because it has a really neat effect that if this card is sent to the graveyard, then you can send a Skull Servant and a Lady in White from your hand and deck to the graveyard, which is really cool to help you just set up the graveyard with this card. And you can banish 2 Skull Servants from your graveyard and this card to special summon out a King of the Skull Servant from your deck, and all of your white monsters actually count as Skull Servants, which helps you boost up your King of the Skull Servant to absolutely massive attack points. We're then playing 3 copies of the Lady in White. This card is a really good 3-up in the deck to help you get it in the graveyard with your copy of White Prince, but it has the ability also that face up level 3 or lower zombie monsters that you control, except the Lady in White, cannot be destroyed by battle and are unaffected by the effects of spell and trap cards, and this card's name is treated as Skull Servant while in the graveyard, which is a really good effect to be able to boost up our king even further. I'm then playing 3 copies of White Baking, which is probably my favorite among all of them just for the picture on this card. This card is just super good in the deck because it has the ability, this card's name becomes Skull Servant while in the graveyard, and if a level 3 or lower zombie monster you control would be destroyed by battle or by card effect, then you can discard this card instead. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, then you can add 2 monsters with different names from your deck to your hand, except a White Baking that is either a Skull Servant or specifically lists Skull Servant in their text. Then discard 1 card, which is a good effect to be able to just use on this card to help you get more Skull Servants in the graveyard while also getting your copy of King, which is really good. So this card is a definite 3-of in this build. And then playing just 2 copies of White Princess. This card is a good 2-of in the deck. It's an okay normal summon, because it's basically a walking Foolish Burial that this card's name becomes Skull Servant while on the field or in the graveyard, or while in the graveyard, excuse me. And if this card is normal or special summon, then you can send a White Prince from your deck to the grave, which helps you get more monsters in the graveyard to get the king even bigger. And this card also has the ability that during either player's turn, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, and all monsters currently on the field lose attack times their and defense equal to their own level and rank times 300 until the end phase of the turn, which is a pretty good effect to be able to reduce your opponent's monsters down so you can go in for an OTK. I'm then playing 2 copies of White Mare. White Mare is a really good card to recover your banished Skull Servants because it has the ability that when this card is in the graveyard, it's also treated as Skull Servant, and you can discard this card to activate one of the 2 following effects. Either pick a remove from play Skull Servant or White Mare and return it to the graveyard, or select one of your remove from play Lady in White or King of the Skull Servants and special summon it back to the field, which is a great effect just to be able to special summon back your copy of King of the Skull Servant from being banished. We then play 3 copies of Unizombie. Unizombie is a great starter for the deck to be able to normal summon out to the field, and then send your copy of White Prince from the deck to the graveyard to then in turn send your copy of Lady in White and your vanilla Skull Servant from your deck to the graveyard to be able to summon out your copy of King later on to OTK. I then play a single copy of Mizuki. Mizuki is a really good one of in here because you can also send this card to the graveyard off of Unizombie or some other cards that we play in the deck to be able to then banish it and bring back your copy of King to the field if you get it in the graveyard, which is very, very important. So that's it for the Skull Servants and the zombie monsters. Let's get into the danger monsters we actually play in the deck. So for the danger monsters, I'm actually going to be playing 3 copies of Danger Bigfoot. Danger Bigfoot is a great 3-of because all of your danger monsters share the exact same effect, but they do each have a unique effect if they're discarded. So this card's unique effect, or this card's specific effect, is you can reveal this card in your hand and your opponent randomly chooses 1 card from your entire hand. Then you discard the chosen card. Then if the discarded card was not the danger monster that you revealed, then you special summon that particular monster from your hand, and if you do, draw a card. Now, all of your danger monsters share that ability that you reveal them in your hand, your opponent randomly picks a card in your hand, you discard that card to the graveyard, and then if they didn't pick the monster that you reveal, you get to special summon it and draw a card. Now, if they do pick the card in your hand and it does get discarded, this card has the ability, if this card is discarded, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it, which is a pretty good effect that you're either getting a 3,000 attack point monster or you're popping a card on the field, which is really good. We then play 3 copies of Danger Nessie. Danger Nessie has a unique ability that if this card is discarded, then you get to add a danger card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of itself, which is a great effect to be able to just get additional monsters into your hand. I'm then playing 2 copies of Danger Mothman. If this card is discarded, then it counts as a Dark World Dealing, where you're going to be able to draw a card and then discard a card, but it works for both players, which is a little bit of a downside, but being able to draw a card and discard a card is really good for us because it's going to help us get our Skull Servants into the graveyard. I'm then playing a single copy of Danger Chupacabra. Danger Chupacabra, if it's discarded, then you can target a danger monster in the grave, except another copy of itself, and special summon it, which you're usually going to pick Bigfoot to bring back your copy of Bigfoot to the field to have a 3,000 attack point monster, which is a great effect. And then playing a single copy of Jackalope. Jackalope has the ability, if it's discarded, then you can special summon a danger monster from your deck in Defense Solution, which is a pretty good effect. And then finally, a single copy of Tsuchinoko. Tsuchinoko is a really good card in the deck because if it's discarded, you just special summon it to the field, which is a great effect, or Danger Noodle. So that's it for the danger monsters. Let's get into the spells and traps that we're playing in the deck, or the spells that we're playing, because we actually don't play any traps in this deck. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn is a really good one of in here, just to bring back your copy of King and the Skull Servant to your field, or even White Prince to the field, to then link it away and use its effect again to get another Skull Servant and a copy of Lady in White into the graveyard. Is just really, really good. I'm then playing a single copy of Foolish Burial to get the exact card you need in the graveyard when you need it, like a copy of White Prince. 2 copies of Burial from a Different Dimension, because sometimes you will be banishing your copies of Skull Servant, so this card can actually put them back in the graveyard, which is really good, to be able to get your copy of White Prince's effect basically for free, which is really nice. I'm then playing 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. Allure of Darkness is a really good card in the deck because we're playing pretty much all darks in the main deck. So this card comes in extremely handy to be able to draw 2 and then banish a card from our hand and just be able to dig even deeper for more Skull Servants. I then play 3 copies of Symbol of Heritage. This card is a really interesting tech card in the deck that has the ability that you can only activate this card while there are 3 or more monsters with the same name in your graveyard, and you pick one of those monsters and special summon it to your side of the field, and the equip monster, and then equip it with this card, and when this card is destroyed, destroy the equipped monster, which is really neat because all of your monsters actually count as Skull Servant. So they're all Skull Servant while in the graveyard, so you can use this card to bring back any of your white monsters, which is really, really cool, or your copy of Skull Servant to your side of the field. This card is absolutely insane in the deck, and just a really, really good card. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Linkuriboh. Linkuriboh is really important in the deck because if you have your copy of White Prince, then you can normal summon it at the field, link it away for this, and then send a copy of Lady in White and a copy of Skull Servant directly from your deck to the grave. So this card comes in extremely handy in the deck to help you out with your plays. We're then playing a single copy of Relinquished Anima. Relinquished Anima is really good to gobble up your opponent's monsters that it points to. So this card is a definite one of in the deck and can also get your copy of your White Prince into the grave. We're then playing a single copy of Access Code just to be able to pop cards on the field, and it's really easy to actually summon this card to the field, but it's a really good boss monster for the deck to be able to summon outside your copy of King of the Skull Servant. But you can change this card out for another Link 4 if you want to go for a more budget option. I'm playing a single copy of Boral Sword. Boral Sword helps us OTK in the deck a little bit easier, so this card is a definite one-of in this build. One copy of Curious Lightsworn Dominion. This card is a good one-of in the deck that helps you just get additional cards in the graveyard because it has the ability to take 3 monsters with the same attribute but different types, which is pretty easy to do with all the danger monsters we have in the deck. So this card is easy to summon in the field, and if it's link summon, you get to send a card from the deck to the grave, and then if this card is sent, or if a card is sent from your deck to the graveyard by effect, you get to send the top 3 cards of your deck to the grave, which is a pretty good effect to get basically 4 cards from your deck in the graveyard, which is just a really good effect. I'm then playing a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn to spin stuff, Phoenix to pop spells and traps, and Cerberus to pop monsters, and also different attributes for your copy of Access Code. One copy of Pentastag. Pentastag is a good one-of in the deck as the monster it points to does piercing damage, which can be extremely handy in the deck to be able to use with your copy of King of the Skull Servant, because it's going to be absolutely huge and do piercing damage. And then playing a single copy of Needle Fiber, just in case you want to step into another monster, like a tuner monster in the deck. You don't have to play it in the deck, but it is a good one-of to be able to summon to your side of the field with a copy of Unizombie, and then get another copy of Unizombie out of the deck to help you go in for more plays. We're then playing a single copy of IP Masquerena. IP is a really good one-of in the deck to be able to go into your copy of Unicorn during the opponent's turn. I'm then playing a single copy of the Chaos Ruler. Chaos Ruler is a great card in the deck because it gets cards out of the deck, and you get to draw the top 5 cards of your deck, or excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, and then pick a light or dark monster among them and send the rest to the graveyard and add that card to your hand, which is a great effect to be able to get cards like your copy of Skull Servants in the grave off that excavate 5. I'm then playing a single copy of Black Rose Dragon. Black Rose Dragon is a really good card to board wipe the field, so I'm playing it as a one-of in this build. One copy of Immortal Dragon. Immortal Dragon is a really good zombie card in the deck that has the ability that during the main phase, you can send a zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, this card's level becomes the difference of the original level of the monsters that was sent to the graveyard, which is a pretty good effect to be able to just basically level manipulate this card and get it to the exact level so you can summon out your copy of Chaos Ruler. But it's a really good card because it's also a walking Foolish Burial. And then playing a single copy of Leveneer the Sea Dragon, which is a really good card in the deck to be able to detach a material and then target one of your banished Skull Servants and bring it back to the field with his card's effect. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a super fun deck to be able to play with. If you guys have never played with Skull Servant, you definitely should, because it's a really, really fun deck to play with. It's very old school, and it's just really funny to be able to summon out your copy of King that has like over 10,000 attack points and just go in for an OTK. So, anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.